There was an attack on US democracy on January 6th, 2021. Now, since 2016, we've seen the US divided according to racial lines, party affiliation lines, and to what each group perceives as truth. But my video today wants to focus on that certain sect of followers that have become so loyal to President Trump that they did what they did. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that those people that chose to incite violence are loyal followers of Trump. Why these followers are so loyal to President Trump? What sets them apart both psychologically and socially is what my video will focus on today. In social psychology, there's something known as terror management theory. And according to this theory, people have to insulate themselves from the feeling of having led an insignificant life due to the threat of death. Now, one way to do this is to associate yourself with a group that holds similar worldviews as you. Now, in their minds, they have reinforced their importance in the world. All their prejudices against the rest of the world or whatever beliefs they have been reinforced because this group believes the same thing. They unite together on their worldviews and become aggressive towards others who believe otherwise. And Trump was able to harness this exact fear through his rallies. All of Trump's rallies, you would have heard him say, "Make America great again." Now, if you go behind the crux of that meaning of that sentence, you can think of it as being a way of telling his base that America has lost its vision, its purpose, its mission, and its greatness in the world. And he perpetuated that fact by talking about the politicians that were in Washington that took away their jobs. He often reinforced that by talking about how the politicians sitting in Washington were working against them. And that is how he created a us versus them mentality. He would then often go after politicians such as Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the late John McCain, or anyone who differed in his worldview and his base's worldview, and would talk about how all of these politicians were working against his people because they were taking their jobs away. They were letting immigrants in to the country. Everything that this base believed in was getting reinforced by everything that Donald Trump was telling them. Now, you have to remember that most of the constituents who are his loyal followers do come from areas where trade deals were made between the US and other countries, and a lot of manufacturing jobs were taken away. So here comes along a person who reinforces the fact that he is going to work for them and bring their livelihood back. He became a voice for those people that felt ignored, not heard, and lost. He became a savior in their minds. And again, this is how you create an us versus them mentality. You start to talk about people being different and reinforcing the fact that they are elitists, and then there's you. So when Trump told his followers to come on January 6th to protest the electoral count, there was no way that his followers, his loyal base, would stay behind and not support him. Because remember, he gave them hope. And hope is something that you can consider as being a candle in a dark room that gives light to every individual. All of the time, they've heard through his rallies that their world is dark. They've often believed that their world is dark because they've often been left behind, not heard, and felt ignored. So when your leader, your savior, is telling you to come out on Washington and march and protest, you bet they're going to come out and march and protest. There was nothing that was going to stop these people from giving their country away to the elitists that were sitting in Capitol Hill. Because in their minds, any politician that doesn't believe in their worldview is taking away their rights and their freedoms. So in their minds, they are actually coming to save the one person who holds the similar worldview as them, who believes in everything that they've believed in. And remember, all of this is reinforced because they're in a group together. Which brings me into my next point of how this thought pattern becomes so different in such groups. And this is explained by the Dunning-Kruger effect in social psychology. Social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger came up with this effect. It basically states that people who lack expertise and knowledge in one area develop a cognitive bias that makes them think that they are experts in that area. So let me help you understand it with an example. Well, you have somebody who says they know a lot about airplanes, and they would then pretend to know a lot about airplanes in front of others who are actually knowledgeable about airplanes. And there's no way that you could stop this person from saying that what you're saying is wrong and not true, because in their mind, they have said that they know everything about airplanes. So they develop a cognitive bias. And this is what has perplexed many people around the world, and frankly, a lot of psychologists, is the fact that nothing can persuade the loyal followers of Trump from not following him. It's not possible. He can do anything and his base would follow him through. It's because of this effect. Because you have a group that is believing the same biases, that are believing the same things together as a unit. So if somebody tells them otherwise, it goes against what their belief is, because remember, he gave them hope. And if you have somebody giving you hope, would you deter from that person? Would you not support this person when this person came out and said, come and march on January 6th? Violence by no means is justified. So I'm going to ask you this. Who do you think is at fault here? I, in my personal opinion, feels that it is a congruent effect. You have a leader that preyed on the fears of the most vulnerable population. And then you have a population that saw hope in this leader and thought of him as being a savior to their own livelihood. These people felt left behind by so many other politicians that he said the right things to accentuate all of those fears that they were holding, all of the grudges that they were holding. All of these things got emboldened because this leader said everything they believed in. So I hope you kind of understood the psychology behind why you have such a loyal base of Trump. Now, I'm going to end this video by a quote from Joe Biden. And this was his speech after he became president-elect. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric. It's time to lower the temperature, to see each other, to listen to each other, to make progress. We must stop treating our opponents as our enemies. We all are Americans. Given the current state of the US, I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think is needed to stop the divisions in this country? What can be done that will unite this country together as one again?